It's September 7, 2022, about 2:40 in the afternoon. And today we're aboard the 1972 Allied Princess 36 Seaquestor, and we're headed out for a light air sail this afternoon. The wind is light out of the southeast, and so it's not going to be a super exciting rail down sail, just a little light air sailing. Then we're probably going to come back, pick up our mooring, and spend the night out there yet again. There's not enough wind to really sail anywhere today, unless we wanted to spend, 8 hours sailing at 1.5 knots or something. So that's that for today. I'll come back when we get off the dock. Well, we're underway off the dock, still under power. The wind is sort of east-southeast, and we're going just slightly south of east. As you can see, until we get out there a ways and the wind goes more southerly, it's going to be pretty much on the nose. A few boats out here. Schooner Ambergris has got a couple sails up. They may be getting to go out with a load of tourists in a little while. So it's a light air day. We're currently running at about 4 knots, and it feels like we got about 5 knots of wind. So, and we're going pretty much straight into it, but it's going to come more on the starboard side on the beam as we go out. So we will probably let the jib out in just a little bit and shut the engine down and see if we can get the boat speed back up to 3.7 knots under sail alone, which I suspect is not going to happen today. Okay, I'll come back when we get some sails up. Yeah, we're underway now at a blazing 2.5 to 2.6 knots as we are heading a little bit south of east out of Southwest Harbor. And there's the view up Somme Sound with an old wooden cruise boat of some sort that I think is headed over to a mooring at the Hinckley Company. And we might pick up a little more wind out there. It looks like there are a couple sailboats that are actually heeled a little bit. Not much. So it's not going to be a really blowy day today. As you can see, it's pretty flat. But there is a little wind out there, so I think we'll be able to sail slowly around the great harbor of Mount Desert Island. There's a better view of that tour boat. That boat was, according to what I've heard, radically renovated over the last year or two at considerable cost. It is a wooden boat. We're now still at 2.5 knots. Here comes the tour boat Elizabeth T, bringing in a load of tourists who've been out cruising around the Great Harbor and observing how lobster gear is hauled. Well, it's a typical day for after Labor Day. Only about 4 boats out sailing, and not much else as we look back into Southwest Harbor. Out here at the entrance to the harbor, there are quite a few empty moorings as people are already getting their boats hauled out, since for most people, or many people, it's already the end of the season. And the wind is shifting so that we're pretty much straight into it. So I'll see if I can fall off a little and get a little bit more wind. There we go. Maybe we can sail a little bit now. I may have to trim that jib in. Yeah, we're blazing along at 1.5 knots, but at least it's comfortable out here. The wind is cool. Offshore, I checked the buoys, it's 59 degrees. The water is actually warmer than the air temperature. And here's a western tip of Greening Island. Yeah, we're out in the middle of the Great Harbor. Friendship sloop Alice E. over there with a load of tourists is heading back towards Southwest Harbor. And there's one sailboat south of us out the western way. So not much traffic. This is pretty typical for what happens after Labor Day around here. A lot of people go home for the season, and the local boat yards start hauling boats out from summer people who have gone, and the people caretakers start closing up summer cottages for the winter as the summer population, which is different from tourists, heads home. We have a pretty large population of people who just come here for the summer, and you know, quite well-to-do people who have maybe a little 20-room cottage on the shore and own a couple of boats. And so they come here, spend the summer, and then around Labor Day most of them go home. So it starts to empty out. Still lots of tourists though. We're at least 50 cars at the Wonderland and Ship Harbor trails today on a Wednesday afternoon. But one thing we're not seeing is families with kids. They're all back in school, unless they're too young to be back in school. So it's and in another couple of weeks, maybe a month, we'll start getting the leaf peepers who come here to see fall colors. So it's a very quiet sail. We've been averaging 2.5 to 3.5 knots, and I think we had one period where the wind was really piping up and we hit 3.7 knots very briefly. So I'm going to stop until we get out here a little further. We're headed toward Little Cranberry Island. Yeah, we're in between Sutton Island to the north, Little Cranberry ahead to the east, and Great Cranberry to the south. And right now I'm thinking that I will sail over to the mooring field on Little Cranberry. We'll take a look at it. That's if the wind will let us. And then we will head back. It's very flat out here. There's not a lot of lobster gear either. No. And there isn't very much boat traffic. Just a little skiff over there. And so here we are on September 7th. A very calm day, not much boat traffic, not much wind, and flat water here on the Great Harbor of Mount Desert Island, Maine, as we head toward Islesford Harbor on Little Cranberry Island. Yeah, we gave up on sailing over to Islesford because we were down to under a knot. We just tacked around. It took the better part of a minute to tack because the boat was going so slowly, but we did make it. And now we're sailing back into a little bit of wind. There's Sutton off to starboard to the north of us, and we're back over 2 knots. And the boat must be heeled, oh, 2, maybe 3 degrees. So it's picking up again. I guess we'll sail where there's wind, and we won't bother with trying to go anyplace in particular. Not much traffic. It's just before 4 o'clock now. And usually this time of year, at about 5 o'clock, the big wind switch in the sky gets set to off. And the wind just stops, particularly on a day like this. The wind we're getting now is probably sea breeze, where we've got hot air rising over the islands and pulling wind toward Mount Desert Island, which gives us a southerly breeze, which is what we've got. And we're up to 2.6 knots compared to what we were doing a couple minutes ago. We're flying. Now there's Bear Island Lighthouse and Northeast Harbor, which still has quite a few boats in it. I imagine that within a couple of weeks it's going to clear out quite dramatically. And the hills of Mount Desert Island. And we're making 3.7 knots now, and we're heading a little bit north of west, back toward Southwest Harbor. So it's a, as you can see, flat water, light air, a pleasant day with good visibility out here to sail the Great Harbor. Well, we decided to head back to the mooring a little early. There's not a lot of wind out here. That's the east end of Greening Island with its Nun buoy. And Southwest Harbor ahead. We're making 2.4 knots on a close reach. So it's pretty flat out here. We almost didn't come today because the weather was calling for variable winds 5 knots or less. And I'd say it's been a little bit more than that at times. We hit 4.1 knots briefly under sail. So, but right now it's pretty flat. As we come into Southwest Harbor, the wind usually picks up right at the entrance to Southwest Harbor. But looking at the water up there, I see some pretty flat areas, so I suspect it may not do that today. We'll see what it's like as we make it back in. We got this rate of speed. We are probably 25 to 30 minutes from our mooring. We may speed up from 2.3 knots, or we may slow down. And if conditions are right, I may try to sail onto the mooring. I haven't done that yet this year. Now we're sailing slowly past Greening Island. We're heading a little bit north of west right now, back into Southwest Harbor. That's a magnetic bearing. And as we're heading in, the Friendship sloop Alice-y, 1899 Friendship sloop, is headed out with yet another load of tourists out for an adventure sail here in the Great Harbor of Mount Desert Island, Maine. Their sunset cruise. It's about 4:30, and they'll probably stay out till about 6:30 to 7. So it's pretty flat out there, though. As you can see, if you look astern of us, not a lot of wind and a lot of flat water. There they are, cruising along. As we head back toward Southwest Harbor. The wind is piped up a little. We're going 2.5 to 2.6 knots now. Oh, we're almost back into Southwest Harbor. We're kind of at the outer edge of the mooring field. Here comes a Morris headed out. Not sure, it looks like a Morris 36 or maybe a 38. They're moving along nicely. I think that's a 36. Very pretty boat. There we go. As we're coming in at 2.8 knots. The way we've been sailing, it feels fast. And ahead, we have the three-masted schooner Ambergris coming out. He's under power right now. I suppose he'll let out some more sail in just a little bit and sail. And look back at the anchorage to the north of Clark Point, which is right there. So we head back into Southwest Harbor. There's the Ambergris. It looks like he's getting ready to let us sail out. As he's headed out for a sunset sail out of Southwest Harbor. Boat's under power right now. As we look back east from the entrance to Southwest Harbor. And we are currently in the outer mooring field, so I need to start paying attention to steering the boat. Now, we're sailing slowly, as you can see, into Southwest Harbor. 2.5 knots. There's a nice Hinkley off to starboard. And to port, this boat named Tortola that has been here most of the summer. I don't know anything about it. Hinkley 42 over there. And this one, I believe, is a Hinkley 59. A nice little day boat. Or if you wanted to sail around the world, it would work for that too. As we come in, it looks like the wind is almost due east over on the north side of the harbor, and kind of southeast on the south side. And there's not much. And we might have issues with steerage, so I think I'm gonna scrap my plan to sail onto the mooring. Instead, we will start the engine. We're only about a quarter mile from the mooring, and motor the last little bit. Now, back on the mooring at about 4:45. Looks like we got here just in time. The wind has gone very light from the kind of south-southeast. As you can see around us, not a lot of air in here. We did motor the last quarter mile or so, just because I like to have the engine for that last little bit of control. Because if you miss under sail, you immediately have to get the boat moving again to avoid blowing into somebody. So anyway, here we are, Southwest Harbor, Maine, just before 5 p.m. on Wednesday, September 7, 2022. So, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this little afternoon sail. Nothing fancy, just about 5.5 miles. Peak boat speed under sail, 4.1 knots. We hit 4.2 under power, so a little disappointing that we didn't go faster under sail than power, but that's what happens on a light air day. And I think that within the next 30 minutes, it's going to be a no air evening. So anyway, time to finish putting the boat to bed. I have to take the mizzen down, get the sail cover on, and all that. And then we'll be able to kick back and enjoy a relaxing evening here aboard our 1972 Allied Princess 36 Seaquestor. Thanks for watching.